Monday morning without emails flooding her inbox. She scrolled through, thumb freezing on a one-word subject line. Janie. That one word, that one name, was the pull of a trigger, and her heart flew out of the barrel, rocketing faster than the speed of sound. She drew in a breath through her nose, trying to quell the growing panic pushing down on her sternum. Static roared in her ears as she fumbled to open the cabinet below the sink, reaching for her security blanket. The 6-hour might not be soft and fuzzy, but it damn well served the same purpose. Some might call her paranoid, she called it prepared. Towel still sheathed around her, Kinley raced into the bedroom, checking the locks on windows and doors in every room in the apartment. The deadbolts were engaged, the windows locked up tight. Chest heaving, she returned to her room and sat in the middle of her bed. Subject, Janie. She stared at the email. A metallic taste rose in her throat, coating her tongue. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything she'd been expecting since the day she turned 18 and left Kansas. She'd climbed out the dank basement window, the sting of broken glass tugging the skin of her belly and wrists as she struggled, and had known this day would come. The man who had taken her innocence, her sense of safety, and every scrap of dignity she ever possessed would come for her. Whether it took 5 minutes, a decade, or longer. Kinley, she whispered through gritted teeth. My name is Kinley. Chapter 1. Thanks for meeting me. Kinley sat with her back to the wall, a ceramic coffee mug warming her palms. The sense of bacon grease and frying potatoes coated the air. When she finally worked up the courage to open the email last night, she was thrust back into a nightmare. In a moment of panic, she called on her friend and fellow detective's brother, who was some kind of cybersecurity savant for the FBI. The Bureau's field office wasn't too far from the state police barracks. Easton Adair had agreed to the early 6 o'clock meeting without hesitation. Don't thank me. Easton slid next to her on the bench. Neither of them would feel comfortable with their back to the room. After what you did for my brother and his fiancée, you're part of our misfit family whether you want to be or not. Her cheeks heated, and she redirected her eyes to the interior of her coffee cup. Being thanked for doing her job, doing what Gus Lambert would have done for her in a heartbeat, made her uncomfortable. Even if you hadn't been able to do what you did that day, I'd still be here. His dark eyes reflected the sincerity riding the low timbre of his voice. Why? He didn't know her, had no reason to do her any favors despite the fact she was as close to partners as it got with Easton's brother. Gus had only introduced us in passing. Easton angled his body slightly toward her, his face unreadable. Maybe I feel a sort of kinship with you. Gus told me some of what you've lived through. No personal details, just who and where. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. Gus hadn't told her what Easton had been through, only that they'd met in foster care. You were taken? She set her coffee mug down. There was a flash of pain, along with something more, something that looked like fury in his eyes. No, I used to pray to be, though. He didn't flinch as he said the words, but she could hear the unbridled truth behind each syllable. She wanted to ask him more, but didn't want to dredge up bad memories. And if she wasn't mistaken, their server was headed straight for their table holding a freshly brewed pot of coffee. A middle-aged man extended his arm. Coffee? He said, angling his chin toward Easton. Yes, please. He tipped over the upside-down mug. Bitter steam plumbed up as the scalding liquid splashed against ceramic. She stole a glance at Easton while he averted his attention to the waiter. Unlike her light brown irises, his were rich and dark, like glossed mahogany, framed by black-rimmed glasses. His hair was the same dark brown, and a bit mussed, like he'd rolled out of bed and swept his fingers through it before leaving the house. Short, but a bit longer on top of his head. He looked like a scruffier Clark Kent. Edgier. More dangerous. Just more. When the waiter walked away with their breakfast order, Easton's attention quickly snapped back to her. Tell me. His words were more demand than a question. He poured creamer and 3 sugar packets into his cup, stirred, and replaced the spoon.